What's going on, fam bam? It is Urius. It's Sunday, November 25th. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. Certainly have had quite the bloodbath. And it's been a while since I made a video. So I wanted to check in with everybody and kind of share my thoughts on this whole space and, where I think things are going. I think it's nice sometimes to just get away from the computer, turn it off, get outside, go do a hike, and do some reflection as well. So, with that said, just a quick recap on where things have gone. We've seen the market just take a huge tumble. I'm not going to go through the prices because they're not important. I think for what we need right now in terms of a discussion with people who are actually still following this space. And so what, you guys have to remember, and before I get onto this, I should say none of this should be considered investment advice. This is just my own opinions. I am an enthusiast of this technology. I also want to give a shout out to CryptoFees, EOS Apologist, the crypto type, everybody else from the EOS community, although this is not specific to EOS in particular. What you guys have to remember is that a lot of the buyers who do not study this technology bought simply to make money. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making money, but the fact of the matter is when the crypto market started to decline into November, and now we're towards the end of the year, a lot of people panicked. A lot of people wanted to lock in their small gains maybe they had because was their main objective. A lot of them may want to use that for tax purposes. And so to sum it up, the market right now is still more in the form of speculation versus usage. Some of that has to do with the issues in some of the platforms, which I'm not going to name, where a lot of projects had promised technologies, promised dApps, but frankly couldn't scale or couldn't deliver something that was usable. And just completing something doesn't make something that someone wants to use. I can make a pile of shit and I could say it's good, but ultimately that is in the eye of the user. And if the user deems the acquisition of the technology too difficult or clunky or just not really helpful, and there's too much of an exclusive, buy my shit token, that doesn't do anything for anybody. And so I think we saw a lot of that. I think that's the tale of 2017, is that you had a lot of storytelling, a lot of promises, but ultimately there was no value. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the air being let out of the market, and rightfully so. So you guys have to ask yourselves, and you may be asking me in this video, well, Urius, what do you think the price will go to? And quite frankly, there's really no floor for the speculators. As long as the speculators will remain, until we see that capitulation from those types, we could continue to keep going down here. Because a lot of them were in it for that purpose, and because a lot of them have lost their investments or they're down, they may be freaking out because they don't understand the technology. And so you could see something like Bitcoin go down to $2,000, maybe even less. You could see EOS certainly drop below $3. And in the short term, for someone like myself, that doesn't really matter. The only thing I worry about is the block producers and if they can sustain their operations. But long term, honestly, it doesn't matter. And for anybody who's into this technology, it shouldn't matter to them, really. But for each person, they have to make their own decision. And, they have to evaluate this from their own perspectives. So with that said, there's a couple reasons why this technology, though, is here to stay. We go back to the classic example of, even the bad dictators supposedly in the media who have attempted to go with the gold standard, for example. And what happened to them? Well, we know that in many cases their bank accounts were seized. They were overthrown by military. There was no liquidity. There was no instant liquidity for them to trade their assets. And cryptocurrencies, a lot of people will say what they want about them, but they offer solutions to that. Number one, they're easily transportable. Okay, there's not like gold where you have to lug around, or silver, you have to lug around huge amounts of physical assets. They can't easily be seized. And there's an instant liquidity in a marketplace with buyers and sellers. So there's still a use for this, but we've seen overpromises and underdelivery of actual utility applications and things that people could actually use that improves their well-being over what we have today in the markets. And so really what we're looking at is when we're going to see apps that enable users, even non-crypto users, from leveraging the technology without them even knowing they're using it. And we haven't really seen that yet. And I guess really what we're looking at here is, in the spirit of some regulators or central authorities passing laws against these maybe countries for trading or currency closures in terms of stopping the flow of money across jurisdictions. Cryptocurrencies provide a solution to that. So there's still a need for it. But what's more interesting to me is a lot of institutions still don't understand this, and a lot of general people don't understand this. I was at a get-together or meetup, you can call it, here in Scottsdale in Phoenix, and I was explaining the cryptocurrency, technologies in depth to some of these VCs here locally. A lot of them still don't get the story. And, even in San Francisco, and even with the launch of something like EOS, I personally was expecting more of that San Francisco crowd to be involved in this. And what we found, or what I found at least in my observations, is that many of them were not involved. A lot of the innovation is now coming from China. It's coming from other sources. And some of that is due to the regulatory issues. Some of it's just due to complete ignorance and the fact that a place like Silicon Valley has lived in a bubble for a long time, and they've considered themselves the epicenter of innovation, and now that's changing and transforming. But what's really, I guess, scary, or depending on where you live, is the fact that a place like the United States is not embracing this technology. The regulations are piling up on the innovators, and I think that spells pretty bad, in terms of the future innovation done in the U.S. for something like this, if we continue to go this route. What else is interesting? I think what else is interesting is we had some of the technologies, I'm not going to name any names. Look at the trading volume. If you take the ratio of the volume they traded at versus their market cap, some of these were trading as much as 1/3 of their market cap in 24-hour volume. That's unprecedented. That suggests to me that there's a lot of changing of hands, or someone is trying to manipulate the market to take more control in owning certain tokens. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. That's something that I haven't heard in a lot of places, but if you just go to CoinMarketCap and you look at the market cap amount and the trading volume over 24 hours, it is abnormal. It is interesting and strange. And I do wonder if, maybe we're seeing more powerful interest now come into this market to take hold and get a good enough stake to control a portion of the narratives. Of course, that some people may jump up and down. I think that's a good thing. I consider that to be a bad thing and even a potential attack. So in terms of what I'm looking at, I'm looking at when do we get to the point where the adoption, the actual usage of the technology exceeds the speculation. And if you look at previous technologies like the printing press or the crop tools, or if you look at the Model T or the factories, the Industrial Revolution, to all the way when we have computers and the internet and mobile phones, what you'll notice is that the adoption curve actually compresses. That the time it takes for someone to go from not knowing anything about the technology to fully using it actually decreases with time. And that's because information itself is becoming more, I would say, liquid. It flows much more easily. Whereas in the past, it would take, much more time for information to spread across a country or across the world. Now with the internet, right, and portals like YouTube and these videos, many more people are getting access to the information faster. And so the information is disseminating quicker, and thus the moves in the market, the adoption of these technologies, the research into them, the innovation and the development on top of them is going to actually increase. And so we could expect a decrease in the amount of time required for the adoption among certain populations. So we may be looking at, even though we think that this may take another couple of years, we may be surprised to think that maybe in 1 year's time to 1.5 years' time, you'll be seeing real aggressive adoption of this technology on a platform. We don't know what platform is going to win yet. There are certainly some favorites, but it's certainly something to also consider, because it's very easy to, of course, a lot of speculators started out bullish and now they're kind of throwing in their towels, and it's very easy now to say, well, this whole thing is done. But what I think people fail to realize is how fast adoption can happen when you have an actual application that helps people or enables them to get an opportunity they don't have otherwise. So I'll leave you with that. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about that. And if you enjoy this video, you can hit that like button. Consider subscribing. I'm going to try to do more of these. I don't like to just do them just to do them. This is more of a reflective video on where I think things are at and why I'm not so worried. It's a long journey. We're in probably inning 1. So you gotta, keep things in the perspective and not worry about the sprint, because you're actually in a marathon. So with that said, this is Urius signing off. And please share your comments, share this video, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.